A Horse for Hanukkah by Myriam Halberstam, illustrated by Nancy Coate. "Good morning, Hannah," whispered Mama. Hannah slowly opened her eyes. "Tonight we light the first Hanukkah candle." "And then we get a present, right?" cried Hannah excitedly as she leapt out of bed. "Of course, but don't be disappointed if your wish doesn't come true," Mama winked. Hannah had been wanting a horse for as long as she could remember, and in the days leading to Hanukkah she had pleaded repeatedly with her parents. "Where would we keep a horse in our apartment?" Mama would respond, but Hannah could not give up on her wish. Finally, the time had come. Darkness had arrived. The shamash candle was lit, and with it the first candle of the Festival of Lights. The whole family gathered around. Hannah especially loved singing. If only her little brother didn't always whine so out of tune. Finally, time to unwrap presents. Papa opened the door to the next room, and Hannah just about fell over. Standing there, waving its tail, was a horse, a real live horse. "Shalom!" the horse hummed in a velvety voice. Hannah could not believe her ears. A horse that speaks, and Hebrew no less? She was simply overwhelmed with joy. "Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Papa," cried Hannah, as she danced around the horse with delight. "I will call you Golda." David was spellbound and held out his hand for Golda to sniff. Golda gently licked it. "Your tongue is rough," David giggled. After a long evening of excitement over the horse and lots of singing of Hanukkah songs, the children went to bed happy and satisfied. Being Hannah's horse, Golda slept in Hannah's room. Hannah had trouble finding her bed. "But that's okay," said Hannah as she squeezed past Golda's belly and tumbled into bed. She thought she heard a soft "Laila Tov," good night, but she wasn't sure. Utterly exhausted, she fell asleep. On the second night of Hanukkah, it was bath time. Golda was curious. She dipped her nose into the tub and in one big slurp drank up all the water. Hannah and David laughed with delight. They didn't much like taking baths anyway. But Mama was not at all pleased. "This is not water for you to drink," she advised Golda sternly. On the third night of Hanukkah, Golda sniffed at the candles. Suddenly she sneezed. With one big "Achoo!" she blew out all 3 candles and the shamash. Now that was going too far. "The Hanukkah candles are not to be played with," complained Papa. "They have to burn out by themselves. You're not allowed to blow them out." "Yes, we know." Hannah looked quite sad, and so did Golda. Hannah thought she heard Golda say, "What a mess." On the 4th night of Hanukkah, Grandma and Grandpa joined the celebration. Grandma brought lots of delicious homemade latkes. Nobody makes them like Grandma does. Grandma and Grandpa stopped their tracks when they saw a horse. Golda brayed, "Naim meod," nice to meet you, in Hebrew. Were Grandma and Grandpa hearing things? Everyone sat down for Latke's dinner. Golda stood to the side and watched as Mama served sour cream, applesauce, and some lox with the latkes. Golda ran her tongue over her. Yum. Suddenly, there was a huge slurp. With her big tongue, Golda had scooped up all the latkes off the plates and right into her mouth. The bowl with sour cream tumbled to the floor. Grandma cried out, "Oy vey, all my latkes!" "Delicious," Golda seemed to say. "Oh, you beast!" Grandma scolded. Mama tried to wipe the floor. David whined, "I didn't even get one latke." Papa was speechless. Only Golda was happy, munching away at the latkes, enjoying every moment. Grandma and Grandpa went home upset. Mama and Papa ordered pizza. Hannah tried to explain to Golda that you just didn't behave this way, and that you should ask before you take the last piece of cake, or, in this case, the last latke. Golda winked at Hannah lovingly. Hannah heard, "Slicha, sorry." It's so hard to stay angry at a talking horse. On the 5th night of Hanukkah, the family was invited to visit friends. This time, they left Golda alone. Joyfully, the guests danced Israeli folk dances together. It was late when Hannah, David, and their parents headed home. Golda had been waiting patiently in Hannah's room. As Hannah dropped down to bed, exhausted by all the dancing, she saw that Golda had left her a little present. A huge pile of smelly dung plopped right next to Hannah's pillow. Ooh, phew! But Hannah was too tired to do anything about it. She fell asleep despite the stench right under her nose. On the 6th night of Hanukkah, the Rosenbaum family wanted to play dreidel. Papa handed out chocolate money and peanuts for betting. David, Hannah, and Papa sat in a circle on the floor and spun the dreidel. Golda watched intently. She wanted to play too. Golda tried to spin the dreidel with her hoof, but hoofs are not made for spinning dreidels. Frustrated, Golda stamped and crushed the wooden dreidel into many tiny pieces. "Now that's the last straw," cried Papa, and the game was over. On the 7th night of Hanukkah, Golda behaved quite well. She stood at the table and politely watched the family eat. "What a good horse," Mama and Papa praised. Hannah stroked her mane. Suddenly, Golda began to neigh, "Ima! Ima!" Her tail had accidentally gotten too close to the menorah. Hannah screamed. Papa tried to put out the fire. David dashed into the kitchen, grabbed the fire extinguisher, and sprayed sticky foam everywhere. The flames were doused. Little David had managed to keep the fire from spreading. What a hero! Golda shivered in fear. The living room had turned into a cotton candy landscape. Mama put her head in her hands and cried. "Good morning, Hannah," whispered Mama. "Wake up, dear. Tonight we light the first Hanukkah candle." Hannah rubbed her eyes. "The first? I thought it was the 8th. We've already lit 7 candles." Hannah's mama laughed. "You must have been dreaming. Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah, so of course we light the first candle." "And we open presents?" asked Hannah. "Why, of course," answered Mama, giving her a kiss. "I won't be at all disappointed if I don't get a real horse this year," said Hannah quickly. "Really? Now that's something new. What happened?" Mama asked wonderingly. "Oh, I just grew up overnight," Hannah answered, smiling to herself. "I'm much, much more reasonable now."